Hello, Dorothy. Nice to see your face.
All right. Hello. Great to see you. Great to see you, Prince.
Hi, Prince. I don't know you.
Hello,
We're gonna know
everybody.
you
Hey,
soon,
Dorothy.
Frank.
I've heard some of your music.
How are you, Ronnie?
Pardon?
I'm good.
How are you? It's good to see you, Ronnie.
I'm really, really happy to be doing this with all of y'all. Thank you.
Be fun.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've been on the, I don't know if I'm the only face who hasn't been seen in a year, but it's been a while. This is really
Well,
nice.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Prince, I got to say you're wearing that hat really wonderfully.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, we are now live streaming on Facebook and Twitter, but YouTube seems to be lagging for some reason. I'm going to keep an eye on that.
You want to take a sec? We could take a sec till that comes up.
Okay, let's wait a bit, and I'm not going to start recording until that's up.
Okay, great. That's how my mommy and daddy are going to watch.
That's cool if you still have a mommy and daddy who can watch. That's awesome.
My mom just turned 86 on Saturday, and my dad will be 91 in May.
Wow.
Mazel tov.
Simon Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Simon Tov.
All right, we are now live on YouTube. It just took a little while. There's a bit of a lag. So I'm going to go on mute. I'm going to start recording. We are now recording. Okay, I'm going to go on mute, and it's all yours, Dave.
Hey, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm David Kirschenbaum, and I'm the festival director of the Welcome to Boog City Festivals. Right now, we're starting Welcome to Boog City 14.5 Arts Festivals. We do these things twice a year. We do a shorter one President's Day weekend, and we do a longer one in August or September. So you're going to have tonight, or today, I should say, for the first time ever, everyone who introduces somebody is the person who booked them. So if you don't like those poets, you'll know, my God, that Kirschenbaum, what did he do? He booked that poet? I never want to hear a Kirschenbaum poet again. So I'm going to be doing some introductions for some other folks, and we'll get started with that for the ones who couldn't be here, but I'll let you know who they are. So these first three poets who are going to kick off the afternoon are booked by the lovely Ron Colm. Thank you, Ron, in absentia. He's not feeling well today. So first up to kick off the festivities is the lovely chapeaued Mr. Prince McNally.
Yay. Prince.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Ron, thanks for the invite. Get well. It's a pleasure to be here at Boog City Arts Festival, and I want to thank the following people: John Maroney and David Kirschenbaum, as well as Susan Mercury. And I'll start off with this first piece. It's called "We Dig Down Deep." As we ride the subways and shop in our malls, far too often we find ourselves covering our noses, our nostrils accosted by the steep, stark stench of homelessness. So we dig down deep into our pockets in search of spare change, change that in no profound way could ever change their situation. For despite your kind gesture of charity, your spare change rarely ever amounts to anything other than a momentary lapse. For their overall life condition will more than likely remain the same. They'll still be homeless, either living in a shelter, sleeping in the streets, or on the subways, scrounging through garbage bins amidst the rats and the roaches in search of discarded food. They'll still have low self-esteem with little to no hope in a system that has failed to see them. They'll still have no job or dignity, and yet somehow they'll still summon the will to live and the strength to rise up every morning just to struggle through yet another day of emotional and mental torment. They'll still have little to no access to basic health care, so we pay them off with the bounty of our utter shame and loathing while shielding our nostrils from the pungent stench incessantly clinging to their bodies and their clothing. Silently, we judge them rather harshly without even knowing their stories, without even knowing their pain. So we dig down deep, deep into our pockets for change, perhaps to salvage what's left of our fledgling humanity, although it's not always from a place of compassion or empathy, but simply to expunge ourselves of our guilt, as if bribing them to just go away, to silently fold into the murky distance of our subconscious, where we no longer have to see them, where we no longer have to deal with them, so we no longer have to face the shame and hypocrisy of a society which claims to be the utopia of a democracy for all its people, not just the affluent, but the disenfranchised, like the elderly, the poor, the handicapped, the mentally ill, and the homeless. So we dig down deep, deep into our pockets of shame for temporary change, so we as a society won't have to. Thank you. This next piece is called Shades of Darwinism. This is Jeopardy! For the game, Alex, I'll take what is the new apocalypse? Perhaps this is nature's way of restating, reclaiming what's hers. Perhaps she's reminding us of our own impermanence and fragility. For we are all born to die. There's no partiality here. The coronavirus doesn't care about your race or your financial status, black, white, rich, or poor. It doesn't care about your political affiliation, Democrat, Independent, or Republican. It doesn't care about your sexual orientation or religion, gay, straight, bisexual, trans, Buddhist, Jewish, Catholic, or Muslim. COVID-19 is the greatest threat to man's quest for immortality. Welcome to the new reality, the new standard of living. Welcome to the culture of social distancing. If only we could distance ourselves from this world disaster, this menacing scourge of impending doom. If only we could distance ourselves from the fear of the unknown, of being left alone with the shadows of our depression and anxiety. If only we could distance ourselves from mourning a carefree way of life we so foolishly took for granted and may never see again. If only we could distance ourselves from the preeminent fear of man's extinction, for gone are the days of our presumed innocence and sordid discontent. Welcome to the new world of donning masks in public, standing 6 feet apart and washing our hands, washing our hands, washing our hands over and over and over again. As the president, the ex-president washes his filthy hands of any knowledge of culpability. Conspiracy theory, what are the implications? Shades of Darwinism. Is COVID-19 a product of evolution or man-made manipulation? So many questions as opposed to addressing the global impact. The ex-president was far more concerned with financial setbacks, political fallout, and corporation bailouts. What of the poor, the elderly, and the homeless? What of the psychological effects upon society as a whole? What of this beloved planet? We're in a state of panic. Worldwide pandemic, infected versus non-infected. Who's positive, who's negative? Isn't it so ironic how we're all interconnected, and yet to survive, we must all remain separate. And this next piece is called Cross Country Blues. Here in the 21st century, I find it rather disheartening yet somewhat perplexing to discover that people of color, particularly African Americans, are still confronted with the haunting anxiety of having to address the issues of racism and bigotry in this country. For once you tasted the vicious venom of its harsh bitterness and foul unwelcoming, its mere mention often triggers a jarring reminiscence likened to war veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. I will never forget the first time I was called a nigger. I remember how that hurtful word leaped from the lips of a stranger's lips. It felt as if daggers were ripping into my skin, the skin of my psyche, swiftly invading the serene borders of my sensitivity, attacking my humanity with such a ferocity it practically unsettled me spiritually. You could never forget the ice cold stares springing from the pupils of hate-filled eyes, piercing through you, or the sudden sound of blistering silence upon entering a world where no one looks like you. During awkward moments such as this, you don't stop to consider whether you should order a drink in that bar or dine in that restaurant, but whether you should have entered in the first place. For the average white person, this would surely be an anomaly, and yet it's a common occurrence for people of color. If one isn't careful, they could easily find themselves relieved of their dignity and self-respect, confusing this insidious ignorance with being invisible, with being undesirable, with being inferior, with being subhuman. You see, racism has a most peculiar way of playing tricks upon the human psyche, while causing some to feel stigmatized, marginalized, and oppressed. It somehow causes others to believe that they are actually better than everyone else. Thank you. And for my last poem, I will close with the piece that was posted on the website. And what of this? And what of this temporal realm of existence we call life? What of this humanity, this entity of earth? What of the skies, the oceans, the heavens, and the universe? And what of God, whose breath sings in endless chords of waves, for therein lies the undercurrent of a reverberating consciousness, its echoes humming ever so sweetly in the air of exuberance, and we are but the sum of its beings. Thank you.
Great. That was Prince McNally, everybody. Prince, you're now my second favorite Prince after Rogers Nelson.
I'll take that.
All right. Our next up, in 1995, I read at the New Year's Day Marathon at the Poetry Project for the first time. I was the last reader, and the place was, you know, there's still people there. There were stragglers, whatever. I knew people. I didn't know everyone. And I read my poem. I finished. We all started cleaning up. And Larissa Schmello walked up to me and she told me, "Hey, David, that was a great poem." And I'll remember that forever, Larissa. So I'm really excited to hear from Larissa Schmello today.
Hello. Thank you, David, for including me. I'm grateful to be here celebrating
Boog, and thanks to Ron Combe for booking me. And Suzanne, thank you for keeping us all safe here. Thanks. That's wonderful. So I am still on Valentine's Day. I know it's President's Day, but I'm still on Valentine's Day. And so I'm going to read 3 love poems. Like a dead leaf lifted from the scorched summer earth, now wet and almost green. Like a dead leaf carried by a thundercloud and brought to water by wind. I am here in the eye of the storm, dizzy, motionless, suspended in the humid air, waiting. Trees tremble. I breathe slowly. I have known tempests, squalls, and gentle rain. You are my first hurricane. Personal. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know what makes you fickle. I want to know what makes you stick. Tell me, which ion propels you? Which soothsayer spells you? Which folk singer trills you? Which hardwood distills you? Which downward dog twists you? Which protest resists you? Which neural net fires you? Which siren desires you? Which villanelle sings you? Which jailbreaker springs you? Which Uncle Sam wants you? Which calculus daunts you? Which lullaby lulls you? Which confidence gulls you? Which apple you'll bite from? Which hither you'll welcome? What makes me forget the right answers, consult necromancers, allow the forbidden, ignore the guilt-ridden, unlearn all the earning, embrace this new burning to know what makes you tick. For the want of a comma, we have live, not die, or live not, die. Now, how shall it continue, bright primate? How shall this be punctuated? An Oxfordian series, cursive, moving ever on, entailing every monkey, all keyboards in existence, black and white, and all of Shakespeare's work? Therein lies a tale. Is my silly hope in life then the parentheses in the mind of a savage loving God, or a twitching rapid question in the tick-tock of the void? Comma or coma? Which is it to be? Angels, you decide. Faster. My hope today, a ferocious, hankering monkey, wrestles with Thanatos in my psyche's mind, about, observed by angels, and truly always about you, my demons who intone Shakespeare's verse like a Polonius behind a curtain, his platitudes punctuated by doubt, growing like a semicolon in my gut, close these parentheses without fortitude or Fortinbras, a Hamlet dangling on the question. Come ask me if I dare, beloved, before I go to ask the question. Would you say, turning me aside as an afterthought in parentheses, that is not what I meant at all, leaving me a grinning, groping monkey to chase distant mermaids in the sea spray, those soggy singing angels who sing to drowning women like me. I am not brave, not Shakespeare's heroine, and will not declaim mercy for men in speech punctuated by all wisdom, warm, maternal, eternal. I am rather a rattled, tangled monkey, fur-matted, teeth sharp, staring down my death in a showdown punctuated by words, and those in parentheses whisper with epithets of my end. Here I sit periodic, asking the angels how long a sentence I will have, and will I ever write one as good as Shakespeare's? To bees and not to bees, and they're soon extinct too, begging the question, Petitio Principi, assuming the initial point, how shall I get to that final, punctuated by logical fallacies, tautologies, circular, as raw as the tail ass of a monkey, me to persuade you, had we words enough for time, there could be no question, no crime in assuming infinity, in basking in eternity like seraphim, bright angels, whose divine lust could last 1,000,000,000 beers and years through 1,000,000 Shakespeare's lines. But our lives are slashed by a Ginzer knife through the tail, trapped in parentheses. To the period's point now, singled by a capital flourish and punctuated with the Oxfordian serial clause. I should have been a pair of claws instead of monkey balls. Given infinity, when my molecules scatter on some infinite star populated by angels, might they not reassemble as me, my primate self, with you, a man as fine as Shakespeare's best, again to dance together, coupled, contained in divine parentheses? For the thought of you, whom I love, I troubled the divine to ask this question. My monkey question is not eloquent nor metaphysical as angels. It stands in parentheses, rose not from the tongue as Shakespeare's, but loves you, period, whichever is punctuated in eternity or extinction. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Larissa. That was Larissa Schmerlo, everybody. Next up is somebody who I'd have to say is one of the great documenters on our scene, who I still look longingly at his Bill Kushner chapbook interview that he did about, I want to say a decade ago or so, Don. But anyway, next up on video, live from New York, well, really on video from New York, it's Mr. Don Yorty, everybody.
My love, I would tarry a while on your mouth. To lie here beside you is all that I want. But if I don't go build a house in the lane, we'll freeze when it snows and sneeze when it rains. House you can make with much thought and sweat, to make a hand shake much harder yet. Much harder still is to live till you're dead. But the hardest is giving without wanting to get. Took my noon rest by a mountain stream, watched how the water it touches all things as it splashes down among slippery stones, for frogs to jump in and skin to shine on. Poured from my mouth, it rolled my eyes, for birds who leave no trace in the sky, for Sir Rattlesnake crawling alone in the winter weary folding dough. La 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 la.
So that was Don Yorty, everybody. Thanks, Don.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn this over to a man who wears two hats for Boog, the printed matter editor for our website and the Poets Theater booker for our festivals, Mr. Bill Considine.
I can't hear Bill.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Duh.
I didn't want to miss my cue.
It's coming up. Actor, writer Ronnie Norpel loves baseball, rock and roll, Andy Warhol, and plastic surgery. Most recently, she hosted the eclectic Tract 187 Culture Clash on the Upper Left Side. Sometime earlier, she and her dancing partner caused hell to freeze over in Hollywood. Ronnie's next written work is True Crime, with a memoir twist about her childhood friend, Sister Kathy. With love in perpetuity to all ye track stars, now batting cleanup and celebrating the 10th anniversary of her Tract 187 Culture Clash, starring in Radvertisements for My Selfie, please welcome Veronica Norpel.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Jilly didn't force me to call the authorities. She knew me better than that. To say we were running buddies in Hollywood wouldn't cover the half of it. LA County is a vast metropolis. We were introduced by mutual friends at a casual indoor cookout at a garden apartment just north of Sunset near the DGA. Within a cocktail minute, we were friends for life. East Coast sporty smarts and skilled gate crashing stories sealed the instant. A few months later, we were on stage at Club Lingerie with David Lee Roth's Mad Blues Man, Top Jimmy, and his Rhythm Pigs. Jimmy had personally escorted us to the Hollywood Playmates shop down the block from Frederick's and even paid for our matching fringe skirts. We supplied the cowboy boots. Best teammate ever. The fringed skirts got a good shaking back then, but it was me who was shaking now. I couldn't shake the retrograde fear I felt ever since I had binged the series. I shuddered every time I recalled my mother's throwing Aunt ML under the priest-nun sex murder bus. I double shuddered to think of the sinfluence that guy had on me, on all of us. I found myself vigilant for any follow-up news about the docuseries. I began to understand why I'd felt odd emo aftershocks in the years since DA Lynn Abraham's report out of Philadelphia. I dug out my contemporaneous reflection on how we might heal from the Archdiocese's twisted game of pass the prelate. I initiated an email conversation with my mother. The phone rang. These days, that 3-word sentence is bested only by Jesus wept. The phone rang. In the old days, that sentence would be followed by the dame said hello. But these days, we can see who is calling. Their name pops up in our face grill on our cell block phone. The phone rang. In the old days, the man of the house brought the first telephone home, and the other man came and they installed it. Then they instructed us to never touch it. It will only bring bad news. Hell, oh. The phone rings, and we may pick up or not. And when one or the other consistently does not pick up, that is called ghosting. Then there is holy ghosting, which for better and for worse is what this story is about. But we'll get to that. The phone rang. It was Jilly. When I first told her what was up with this shit, her locale was a bracing chaser. Of course, eventually I would get down there to see her. Mama Joyce had other plans. Mom's gone. Oh, baby girl, I'm so sorry. When's the last Friday? I'm sorry I didn't call you sooner. It's been a little. The viewing is Friday night. Just let me know. I'm on the bus. Stanley can pick you up in the morning. It was Wednesday afternoon. Jilly knows I'm killer on short notice and ever grateful for a lift. She gave me just enough time to pack without thinking too hard and arranged a ride besides. Best teammate ever. And her birthday was Sunday. I love you, Jilly. So sorry. Your mom. So cool. See you Friday, sis. Damn. Mama Joyce! I had a good cry for all of them as soon as I hung up. Like Dad, Mama Joyce had been on the health fence for the past few years. Age can just chip away at you like that. The good death comes and grabs you. Hope I die before I get old. I thought of John Entwistle and Top Jimmy. I cried some more. Then I laughed. Holy shit! Called to Baltimore for the great lady's funeral. I always got these feelings about things. Mama Joyce was making sure I got down there sooner rather than eventually, and she was not one to argue with. Nephew Stanley made the road trip easy. We were across the GWB by 9 and stopped for snacks and gas on the Jersey side. He loves to chat, and I'm all ears at that hour, so we had a quick time of it. We shared many laughs considering our destination. A couple times, though, we caught ourselves out. You know how you do when you are enjoying yourself, and then you again remember your destination. Ashes to ashes, bitches. There are also those natural lulls in any road trip gab fest. In those moments, my mind drifted against the scenery whizzing by. It was already 2 years ago since I had started processing, let's call it, my association with that story. Dad had died less than 2 months after it dropped on Netflix. I don't pad my resume, and these are no chicken cutlets. I pushed up the B cups and tossed my boob job from God in his direction. Had them installed after I left Hollywood, courtesy of the Big C. I mean, while everybody's throwing their tough guy cred around. I laughed. Smartly, he did too, whether he wanted to or not. I held up one peace sign and then the other. V for Villanova, V for victory. The frame paper behind his desk had a big Navy G on it. I wasn't wearing my distance specs, but from where I was sitting, it looked like BS, a BS in psychology. James Bond, Junior Jesuit Division, shot me a look, but forgot to load his eyeballs. Seriously, what the hell's a Hoya? Don't tell me you are a Nova cheerleader. Half. My dad was a wildcat and took us kids to the best ever rockets as sweaty as all get out in the upper deck time at the Palestra against St. Joe's. Fast break, I ended up working for Buck the bartender of Bulletin fame at the Big Five. The first time Villanova won the national championship that March, it really was madness. I watched my brothers. Oh man, what was I thinking? The team Villanova beat that year was Georgetown. Oh, how did I space out on that one? Well, at least he knows I'm sincere, sincerely not paying attention. I became friends with one of their cheerleaders years later, but she's on drugs. I mean, she works in, was she a blonde cheerleader, pharma? I've seen that Big Bang rerun. Penny, what is wrong with me? This guy is not even that good looking. Oh, right. There's nothing wrong with me. I was trained to entertain the silent Irish of the cliffs of terseness, especially when I catch a whiff of suspicion. It makes me dance faster by mouth if I am sitting in a chair. I presidented Wharton Women when I was at Penn and played lacrosse on Franklin Field. Went full-time with my hometown Phillies and got into capital T trouble with one of the dumb rookies. Fairly standard stuff until you factor in the family priest's influence. He was a big fan. Detective McKay tuned in. He liked sports, but he liked cracking cases even better, and this was such an old one. I quit the team and headed north. This city was strong medicine, and I quickly got why the Penn guys called it the city. If you didn't appreciate it, it would grind you into its gum-blotted sidewalks. I fell in with the Warholikinder and was curator of the first postmortem Andy show with the Gerard Malanga. When I told him at that first go-see that I had at 12 taken Gerard for my confirmation name, G dubbed me Ronnie Gerard. Then Uncle Andy paid my way to Hollywood, and I escaped the whip dancer, though he was dead by then. Andy was. I landed on stage with rock stars in Hollywood. I paused. McKay's face bore that familiar look which comes over people who suffer Warhol skepticism syndrome. Hold it, Mr. Hoya. You know Andy went to daily mass. I read that in his FBI file. Interesting guy. Lots of religious iconography. The Last Supper in camouflage. And Hitchcock was educated by the Jesuits. And Sherlock Holmes took cocaine. Where are you going with this, Miss Marple? I love me my Agatha, but I always took Miss Marple to be somewhat elderly. This case is 50 years old, but I prefer Brenda Noir. A lot of people have given up on black and white, right and wrong. These concepts were once clearly delineated. In fact, to even call them concepts was unnecessary. People just knew right from wrong in the old days. We were so spooked by the man in the sky looking over us, watching our every deed. Now, no one is afraid for their mortal soul of the guy in the sky, yet we forget. We are so heavily surveilled. We are being omnipresently watched. You sound like you have training. I had such good training. I've been untraining myself for decades. Untraining? Yes. And I have a double PhD from Clown College to prove it. You were down in Sarasota? You do the Ringling program? No Florida for me. Not since the '84 National League Series, which was played in San Diego. I need sunblock 80 if I go south of the Mason-Dixon. The clown who trained me was of the wormy variety up there in the Big Apple. My recovery from, let's call it his program, is one of the reasons I have come to talk to you. Thanks. Thank you, Bill, for booking me. Thank you, David, for doing the Boog City, and rock on all my fellow poets and musicians and friends, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Veronica. That was wonderful. Okay, and I will, oh boy, go here. And I'll move right along to our next speaker, our next poet playwright, Dorothy Cantwell.
Go, Dorothy.
Dorothy has worked as an educator, actor, and playwright. Active in New York City experimental theater in the 1980s, she was a co-founder of Robin Epstein's More Fire Productions. And she worked with many great downtown theater artists in venues that ranged from the Performing Garage to Broadway. Dorothy returns to the stage occasionally, most recently in a retrospective of Jeff Weiss's work at the Kitchen, and in Bill Considine's Persephone's Return and The Furies. Her work has been published in the Long Island Literary Journal, Brownstone Poets Anthology, Constellate Literary Journal, Flash Boulevard, Assisi, River, and South Review, and Poetry Bay. Coming up now in this part of a series called The Quilter Talks, the quilter tries to make sense of gun culture in small town America. Please welcome Dorothy Cantwell as the quilter.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, David and Suzanne. This piece is called The Quilter Makes Her Grandson Lunch. And here she comes. Tuesday is Ladies' Day. That's what the sign said. You know, the blinking sign in front of the all-county indoor shooting range? That long rectangular metal building across from Dollar General and Lily's Nails. Tuesday is Ladies' Night. And then, blink, 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 have your bachelorette party here. And all of a sudden, well, it just wasn't funny anymore. I think of those people inside, the instructors, the guys oiling their guns, the red cups, beer bellies, and these colors don't run t-shirts, the ones with the long ponytails pulled back over bald spots, and then the whole bachelorette crowd with their perms and nails and couch potato asses, or the bony hip ones, you know, skinny from cigarettes and the meth. And I pictured all of them inside with their guns and ammunition. And well, all of a sudden, I wanted to get a gun too, take some lessons, start shooting. Suddenly, I wanted a gun. Because those people scare me. What are they shooting at in there anyway? Imaginary terrorists, imaginary hoodie-wearing criminals in Walmart parking lots? What are they, standing their ground against some imaginary burglar climbing in their basement window to steal their 10-year-old computer and power tools? Oh, they must have posters all over the place. Posters of Muslims, posters of liberal, condescending talk show hosts, posters of, oh, I didn't know, some failed candidate they just can't get over. And who would I pretend to shoot at anyway? Well, the memory of my ex, of course, and oh, that dirtbag who beat up my daughter in high school, yeah, he'd be on my list. And maybe those girls in back of me at Rite Aid, you know, I think they were laughing at me. And Phil, when the hell is he going to fix my roof? Those people, you see them all the time. They're in the supermarkets carrying rifles like they're going to scare the cashiers, or the ones with the gun racks in back of their trucks riding around on their way to nowhere. But they're still in such a hurry that they tailgate me and try to run little old ladies like me off the road. Those are the ones. Those are the ones that they scare me and they make me mad. Is that what they want? Me with a gun? Is that what they fucking want? I hate guns. I hate them. I never really wanted one. The look of them just makes me sick. I never had any desire to use one. And to tell the truth, you know, I don't have much regard for gun owners either. Even the hunters, I'm sorry, Bambi killers. And I know all about the deer overpopulation problem and the death of a deer compared to a death of a steer in a slaughterhouse and the health benefits of venison. Well, I make a good venison stew myself. It's not that. It is those people. It is their idea of fun. It's the idea that they would consciously go out and find a beautiful living creature that poses no threat and decide that it would give them pleasure to go out and kill it and watch it die. For fun. For fun. What, for a spurt of pleasure? I just can't respect it. The idea it would be so pleasurable to kill another living thing that you'd want to go and do it again. And then you want to go and do it again with friends. Oh. I pray sometimes that I would never have to look at something I've killed, even by accident, die in front of me. I would like to leave this life with ever having seen that. And I think people who want to see that, they are either sick in the head or pathetic losers, overcompensating small men. And I know you're going to ask me about fishing, and I have thought about fishing. fishing. I think fishing, there is some sort of randomness and weird kind of choice involved. I mean, that fish has some intention to take a smaller life when he chomps on your hook. And it's not like you cornered him or tracked him down. And have you ever seen a bluefish feeding frenzy? You see this boil of fish, and the bluefish are savaging all these little tiny fish, and then they are vomiting up their guts so they can mangle. They are not even hungry anymore. So I think, well, bluefish, fuck the bluefish. Instinct or not, they deserve what they get. But a tree nibbling doe, that must be some sort of sin. Unless, of course, you're going to freeze the meat, take it home, feed your family all winter. I mean, that's why you're doing it, right? You're not doing it because you want to see something die. Because death, honey, is the real thing. No, you're my sweet little grandson. You slept in that bed with that puppy till he was way too big. And when you were little, you always wanted a wabbit, a pet wabbit, oh, so much. That's who you are. That's who you still are. No, I'm not a vegetarian or anything like that. I am going to enjoy this ham sandwich with mustard on this brown bread and pickle, and I'm packing 2 for you. And also, I'm going to pack a thermos of lemonade because you remember what I told you about beer in the woods? I have a feeling that some of these hunters drink. Oh, this is going to be such a good meal. So, hey, you must say it's a little hypocritical to feel the way I do about hunting, and you'd probably be right, but I certainly don't get pleasure out of the fact that a pig has to die so I can have this lunch. I don't think, ooh, I want to see that. There are people who do, you know? There are people who really, really want to see something die. At a country fair where I was selling my quilts, I saw this little rectangular building. It was white inside and out, big windows and bleachers right in front. And I didn't know what it was. And then I saw the sign. Pig slaughtering, 1 o'clock. Pig quartering, 1:15. Sausage making, 1:30. And I guess that 1:45, they had to hose it all down for the next pig. It was kind of in the back, not a main attraction, but people could watch. I mean, there were bleachers. People could bring their children to see that. Their children. Well, now I think about it, at my wedding feast, we had a roast pig on a spit with an apple in his mouth. So who am I to talk, right? What was I thinking? Sometimes I don't think I could live in this world one more moment. I don't know, maybe it's biblical. The idea that God would love you more if he saw you slice open the throat of a little lamb. Can you get me a gun, honey, and teach me how to shoot? I promise I won't do anything innocent, you know, and I'm not gonna lie and say I need it for protection. Although, you know, those crazies ever bust out of that tin can, hit the street with their guns, talk about a can of worms. It could happen, I think. I think it could happen. It makes me so mad. It just makes me so mad that I'm feeling this way. I mean, the only people benefit from all this is the NRA or the gun manufacturers, because every time, the more we want each other dead, the more we want to kill each other, the richer they get. blood on their hands and cha-ching, coins in their pocket. But I think I have to do it. Just don't you be at the shooting range this weekend. I would be ashamed to have you see me. Thank you.
So great.
Yes,
Thank you, Dorothy.
great.
That was wonderful.
Killing it.
Everyone, we have one more video by Don Yorty, which I'm going to play now. That's going to close this set. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Oh, Dave, you're still here, so you're going to be running off to the next set, right?
I will be.
Okay, cool. I'm going to play the video now. There we go.
I am here with you. But what is even better, you are here with me. I am singular, and we are plural. I see us walking on the busy street and waiting for the bus. Each day I meet him, Walt Whitman, whose kind face I see all over the place. Or I am in his brain, because I think that poet isn't dead any more than I live. Grass in his stead comes through the sidewalk's cracks. Let it remain, unnoticed as the air we breathe. New York City is just a poet's thought, and we are written on the page eternally, living then as well as now. Yet, time's short. It's important to talk and say what is. I think of him. I am a thought of his. Passer deliciae meae puellae, qui cum ludere, quin sino tenere, qui primum digitum dar appetenti, et acris solet incitare morsus, cum desiderio meo natenti, carum nescio quid lubitio cari, et solaciolum sui dolores. Credut tum gravis aquiescat ardor, te cum ludere, sicut ipsa possum, et tristis animi lavare curas. Tam gratumst mihi quam ferunt puellae, per nic coriolum fuissi malum, quad zonum saluit diu legatum. Sparrow, delight of my darling, playing with you at her breast, offering her fingertip, provoking you to bite at it. I'm not sure of the games my lovely lady needs to play to comfort her sorrows and ease a bit love's ardor. But I believe if I could play with you as she, my troubled soul would be lifted gratefully as that swift virgin's, stooping for a golden apple, undid her dress, long tied. When sleep vanishes, then you swim. Awake is no island, merely swift stroke and breath. The moon is not the sun skull. Day is not what night forgets. I have an uncle who builds houses, and he tells me I don't write poems. that what I write is vile and useless, not good for anyone. There was a time I believed him. His words aloud, crippling all mine. Until I saw a words aboard, each nail succeeding nail. Something comes, even if quite small, and find shelter there. In the South Mountain, along a road that goes from an ocean to a great lake, not far from my parents' home, I walked up to a water snake whose lower end a car had crushed, revealing in blood its smooth intestines, where a cluster of flies flew up and remained, filling themselves. It hissed, mouth pinkest flesh, flayed and reached out, trying to leave itself, still, now moving, tip of its nose along the road, mouth so silent, open, I thought it was dead, till it twisted, closed, unclosing, constant agitation without rest. I thought, you are a poem, and crushed its head with a warm, flat stone. My love, I would tarry a while on your mouth. To lie here beside you is all that I want. But if I don't go build a house in the lane, we'll freeze when it snows and sneeze when it rains. House you can make with much thought and sweat to make a hand shake. Much harder yet, much harder still is to live till you're dead. But the hardest is giving without wanting to get. Took my noon rest by a mountain stream, watched how the water it touches all things as it splashes down among slippery stones for frogs to jump in and skin to shine on. Poured from my mouth, it rolled my eyes for birds who leave no trace in the sky. The Sir Rattlesnake crawling alone, and the winter weary foaling dove. La la, la la.
Thank you, everyone. The next set is going to be starting fairly promptly, so I'm going to stop